a witch can actually be whatever you want her to be, or them or him. A witch is not defined by a gender. It's not defined by one particular practice. You can be a Christian witch, a satanic witch, a Jewish witch, a Wiccan witch, a voodoo practitioner that identifies as a witch, etc. So I think there's not really one narrow definition, but to me, it's someone who feels they have the power to change their own life and to, make change in the world around them through nature-based practices, through communal practices. And sorry if that sounds vague, but it just means so many different things. It's hard to really pin down, actually.
A Christian witch, Kristen?
Yes, actually, my mother is a Christian witch.
Really?
She was raised Catholic, but there's a lot of traditions of Catholic folk magic where you sort of use the figures, the saints, the holy days in sort of different ways that sort of harken back to the time when early Christianity was blending with pagan traditions, and making this sort of other kind of shadow Christianity below the surface.
Kind of some of the times when Christianity was spreading, but the cultures to which it spread kept some of their previous traditions even as they incorporated new traditions.
Absolutely, yes.
Was your mother your inlet to witchcraft, Kristen?
Yes. And she did not use that word witch because that was still, a pejorative until maybe even now. But now she's okay with that word. But yes, she definitely introduced me to this practice.
Pam Grossman, what about you? What is a witch in your view?
And to Kristen's point, whenever I get asked this, I sort of stiffen in my chair. Here we go. because it really is, it depends on the context. When we're talking about a spiritual practitioner of some kind of witchcraft, as opposed to the archetype of the witch, I would say that a witch is someone who honors the cycles of nature and of their body, someone who works with energy and consciousness to transform their life and the world.
What was your inlet to witchcraft, Pam?
So when I was a child, I loved playing in the woods, and I very intuitively did all these kinds of rituals and really entered that state of deep imaginal play that I think comes very naturally to a lot of children. And I was very interested in magic, in mythology, in anything that had to do with powerful, magical women. I was very lucky to grow up in the 80s when there were cartoons like She-Ra, where you could see these powerful, transformative, magical female protagonists. So I think that got in my bloodstream a little bit. But then when I was a teenager, I started discovering that there were actually spell books, literally in the mall. There were stores like Walden Books and B. Dalton where you could buy these books of spells and learn about what witches were. So I started experimenting with these spells, and to my great surprise, some of them worked. And, that was something that was really meaningful to me because I think, like a lot of teenagers, I felt a bit like an outsider. I felt like there were a lot of things in my life that were suddenly out of my control, and witchcraft was a way for me to feel like I had some agency in my life.